Thank you for listening to the Matt's Movie Reviews podcast, available on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, and Stitcher. Also, please follow Matt's Movie Reviews on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Reddit, Instagram, and MeWe. And of course, be sure to visit mattsmoviereviews.net for the latest reviews, top 10 lists, and more. Now, on to the show.
Gareth, do you recognize this girl?
Yes.
What's her name?
Cherry.
We think we can help you, but we need to help her too.
You don't understand.
Who is she?
I'm asking you politely to let this one go.
She's a child.
The reason you can't find Cherry, the reason why she doesn't have a last name or a social security number, is because she's not a real human being.
Hey, what's up? I'm Cherry.
She's one of the most complex AIs that's ever been created.
What I want is to protect children.
We're talking about a monumental transition from digital to physical.
Human nature is not something I aspire to.
Do you want to tell us the truth?
Cherry isn't human.
No more secrets.
I can't even tell I'm not human anymore!
Hello again.
Hello, Cherry.
Hello and welcome to the Matt's Movie Reviews podcast. I am your host, Matthew Pejkovic, and this is episode number 524. Releasing April 27 in the US in theaters on demand and digital is The Artifice Girl, a sci-fi drama that tells the story of a team of special agents who discover a revolutionary new computer program to bait and trap online predators. After teaming up with the program's troubled developer, they soon find that the AI is rapidly advancing beyond its original purpose. A fascinating movie that delves into the complex and increasingly relevant subject of artificial intelligence and the moral and ethical questions surrounding this technology. The Artifice Girl also marks the latest film from filmmaker Franklin Ritch, who joins me now on the podcast. Franklin, thank you so very much for your time today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm stoked to be here.
It's really interesting how I was reading up or listening to previous interviews that you had in regards to this movie, and your approach towards the subject of the film, artificial intelligence. You weren't approaching it from like a tech kind of side of you. You yourself have said you're not a tech guy, right? That's not your kind of thing. You was more from a philosophical kind of point of view. And I think that's my approach to it as well. I don't know much about the tech aspects of it. I think about the moral and ethical implications of it. So what was it about the philosophical point of view of this technology that really spoke to you as a filmmaker and storyteller to want to put this together? Because it's a really fascinating subject and it really turned out to be an incredibly equally fascinating film as well.
Sure. Yeah. On a surface level, just the idea of using technology and AI to hunt down criminals, that just seemed like such a cool idea to explore. But you're right. I didn't feel compelled to actually write anything until I remember there was this sort of epiphany moment, like back in the spring of 2020, right before I started writing the script of just making this thematic connection between the budding adolescence of AI and childhood trauma. And it felt like once that parallel was made, suddenly I just knew that this was a story I wanted to tell. There's so many interesting themes and ideas that you can use AI and technology as a conduit to explore. And I feel like that's I hope what's making the Artifice Girl so intriguing to so many people.
It is, but at the same time, the more tech qualities of the whole kind of like technology, the science behind the science fiction is something that's really kind of fascinating as well. When it came to that part of it, researching the science of the science fiction, where do you start? Because it just seems to be such a daunting aspect, such a big thing. Where do you start I'm sure now how you are now was much more advanced in your thinking of this stuff as you were from the beginning of this process.
You're absolutely right. It was daunting, and I had no prior knowledge or insight into technology like AI or machine learning. So I did, sort of did the things that one would assume you would just have to do. I took an online course in machine learning, and did plenty of research online. But I think the most helpful thing was actually having conversations and phone calls and Zoom calls with actual professionals of those fields, and talking to people who weren't just developing AI, but were also doing so as a way to combat criminal actions and predators, like the film showcases. So talking to those people, I thought, was the best source of research, and getting their individual human perspectives on what they were doing, I think, was super beneficial, not just from so I could better speak the language that the film sort of has to, but also understand the human perspectives and the human beings behind these systems and technologies.
The human beings behind the police, law enforcement people as well, I think is really important. I covered a documentary that came out last year here in Australia called The Children in the Pictures, and there's a podcast of it as well. And the documentary was about a part of the federal police up in Queensland. They're dedicated to online predators, and what they've had to do is they actually take the images that they confiscated and they created their own websites to lure in people. And they talked about how it is a very efficient way to get predators and entrap them. But at the same time, they're dealing with many moral and ethical quandaries when it comes to that. And you can only imagine, like, you want to get these people off the computers and off the streets, but you have to, I don't know, there's something about almost corrupting or selling a part of yourself in order to do that. I think it's the human aspect of it is just as fascinating as the tech aspect, but don't you think?
Absolutely. I mean, that sounds like the kind of documentary that's right up my alley. I'm shocked. I'm so grateful that you've told me about it, because I'll be watching that probably as soon as these interviews are done. But no, I again, like, I just thought that was really fascinating. What kinds of conversations were these developers having behind closed doors? And you're absolutely right. Like, this takes a toll on people. This is a very horrific crime that's being committed, and cracking down on it is hard on the soul, on the spirit. It is not an easy thing to emotionally undergo. And I really wanted to get into, like, what were those kinds of people like? What drove them? What were they afraid of? What inspired them, what upset them. And so I think that was crucial to understanding the core characters in the Artifice Girl. I would have loved to have watched that documentary that you just talked about, but before writing the project. But I think you said it came out in 2021. But I think it's such a timely moment to tell stories like that. I think it's important. And you're right, just in law enforcement in general, I think it's really fascinating seeing how psychologically these people approach and cross-examine suspects and whatnot. I feel like there's a rhythm to the way that they do it. And I just thought that was strangely, kind of cinematic, and really thought that was a great way to sort of kick off the story.
The Matt's Movie Reviews podcast is brought to you by TeePublic. TeePublic is the world's largest marketplace for independent creators to sell their work on the highest quality merchandise. With over 1.2 million designs, TeePublic is sure to have something you'll love. The Matt's Movie Reviews podcast is brought to you by Amazon. The world's leading online store, Amazon is your first stop to buy a wide range of products at competitive prices with fast delivery times. Amazon is also a world-class entertainment hub that includes Prime Video, Audible, Twitch, Amazon Music, and more. Sign up with Amazon today and experience the best in online shopping and entertainment. Please support Matt's Movie Reviews on Patreon. Get access to exclusive content, request movie reviews and top 10 lists, and help support my work. Please click on the Patreon link in the description below. Something that comes up in my mind quite a bit whenever I think about these things regarding artificial intelligence and such, is that there's the debate within the film and in real life as well, as whether these artificial creations are just zeros and ones, or are actual living beings, and living not even in like flesh and blood, but is there soul in the machine? That kind of aspect of it really kind of, especially myself as a spiritual religious person, is something that it comes to me. I mean, it's about the whole correlation between the creator and its creation. And I think in the film, they even referenced themselves, the developer and the agents, as parents of Cherry. And it's such an interesting term, parents, in regards to something that isn't real, but is real. It's just such a fascinating thing. When it comes to that aspect of the soul in the machine, where do you kind of stand in that? I mean, if a creation is born from us, and whether, the spiritual aspect, the creator is, their creation is born from them, like how God took the rib from Adam and made woman, or whatever, like that. I mean, what is an AI but an extension of that? Sure, absolutely. If you were to, I mean, could you say that, like, a painting or a work of art had, in essence, a soul? A masterpiece like Mona Lisa, does that? Because it's an extension of the creator, but it also means so much to so many people. And I think AI is, even more so. In particular, the character of Cherry is supposed to be a reflection of people, of humanity. I mean, that's her primary intention. I think all AI, in a way, is a reflection of the people that make it, and it will reflect the best and worst parts of us. But Cherry specifically, her prime, intention and objective is to try and best replicate human behavior, and in doing so, I think she ends up crossing the line, more severely and more profoundly than I think anybody, including herself, anticipated. And then the question has to be asked: well, at what point is simulating emotions and simulating feelings and simulating a soul not the same thing? Isn't it just the same thing as having those things? I don't have the answers to it. I don't think anyone will ever have, right? Yeah. And I don't dare try to assume or presume one way or the other. And I hope people don't come away from the film thinking that I've tried to insist on one or the other. I just think it's fascinating to talk about, and more than anything, I hope people come out of this film wanting to have conversations about it and wanting to discuss this with each other, because I think it's a conversation that is more timely than ever. The character you play in the movie, you star in the film as well, and edits and writes and directed so many things and so many pies in this film. The character Gareth, he comes from the film industry, and it's really fascinating to me as a film fan, as a writer of film content, film criticism, etc., where the future of AI was going to intersect with the movie industry. He was talking about in the movie this process called deturning, which is taking a deceased actor and their physical properties, and then resurrecting them in the digital realm and putting them in a film. Something like that kind of happened. There was a movie called Sky Captain of Tomorrow that came out years ago, had Jude Law, Angelina Jolie, and I forgot the actor. I think it was Laurence Olivier. I think they kind of brought him back using stock footage, and at that time it was very kind of controversial. Can you foresee in the future something like this being an issue? Can you foresee, for example, when doing movie actors doing movie contracts with movie studios, digital rights, digital property rights in regards to their look and everything else? Because I just think that the possibilities of making a film in the future, maybe if they want to make a Godfather Part 4 and they bring Marlon Brando back or something, that could happen. I mean, it's a possibility. In all honesty, I apologize. I'm not super informed about this. Probably not as much as I should be. But I think, if I'm not wrong, this is already an issue. This is already something that people are starting to have to deal with, and have to start setting legal precedents, which is, it's crazy to think about. Like, who owns the rights to a deceased person's likeness, right? Is it the family? Who if let's say a deceased person signs a contract with a studio that, yeah, you can use my face and likeness, but then also, like, you've got actors who are being de-aged, and what if, like, does your likeness, does that qualify if it's just like you and when you sign the contract, or like, can they
recreate your likeness when you were a young person. Like there's so many interesting and scary things to talk about. I do think that deep down it is unsettling to think that you can resurrect a person's likeness and body and image and essentially have them do or say whatever it is that you as the person animating this, whatever you want. That's terrifying. And of course, we're living in an age now with deep fakes and stuff. And there's a terrific documentary at South by Southwest about a poor young woman who found out there was deep fake pornography of her, and it's just absolutely terrifying. This sort of new world that we're entering into, and I mean, you could make a whole nother Artifice Girl sequel just about that kind of stuff, but yeah, that's definitely something that I wanted to touch on because I think that's yet another real world example of the kind of interesting and scary realities of technology and AI and identity and likeness,
It's another fascinating question and an area to explore, and such a fascinating subject from a fascinating film into movie that made me really think and reflect. And I can't ask for more for a movie to ask of me as a film watcher and a film critic. I absolutely appreciate that, and I really adore that. So I just want to say thank you to you, Franklin, in regards to that, and for everyone listening. April 27 in theaters, on demand, and digital is The Artifice Girl. I recommend everyone though buy a movie ticket, watch it in theaters, go to the theater and watch films like this in independent films, because films like this, if it makes money at the box office, more films like this will be made, and more filmmakers like Franklin Ritch, who's giving his all this time today, will make more movies. So Franklin, thank you. Best of luck with the film's release. And great work. I really appreciate our chat.
Thank you so much, Matthew. This was a wonderful experience. Thank you so much for asking these wonderful questions. And thank you all for listening.
Thank you for watching the Matt's Movie Reviews channel. Please subscribe for more reviews, podcast interviews, and exclusive content. Also, if you would like to request a review and support my work, please join my Patreon via the link in the description below.